Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the Planning Committee meeting held here on the 20th of February. My name is Councillor Gary Marsh. I'm the chairman of the committee. To my left is my vice chairman, Councillor Kennedy. To my right is Steve Ashdown, head of development management. To his right is Edwina, who's our chief legal beagle. And to her right is Anne Biggs, who's actually in charge of development control and policy. And all the members in front of me are members of the committee who will be making the decision. In the two corners are members of Democratic Services who will be keeping us in check. So I'm just going to run through the agenda as it happens. Item 1 is to note substitutes. I have none. Item 2, I have everybody's here, so there's no apologies. Item 3 is to receive declarations of interest from any member on respect of any matter on the agenda. Press your button.
Yes, I have one in turn. It's item 6.
Is that, and is it because you've
I'm on the planning committee at the town council.
okay, thank you. You noted that? Yeah, thank you. Item 4, to agree by general affirmation the minutes of the meeting we, oh, sorry, yes. No, only if you've got something in front of you, which, yeah, we're all members of the planning committee somewhere. It's only if we made a decision elsewhere. All right. Item 4 is to agree by general affirmation the minutes of the previous meeting we had in January. I very much doubt if we're going to get anywhere near that length that we had last time. Item 5 is to consider any items that the chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I do not have any, and the reasons why we're here. Item 6, and this is the second time. So this is DM 233105, land off Turners Mill Road, Haywards Heath. I'm not going to say a great deal on this one because I'm going to leave it to my two planning experts and the legal outline why we're here today for this one.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just very before I start the main part of the presentation, just draw members' attention to the very light update sheet that you have in front of you. It just amends the date in recommendation 3 to reflect 3 months from this committee. So just in terms of background, sort of covering how we've got to where we are today. As we know, the application was considered by this planning committee on the 5th of December last year, where it resolved to refuse planning permission as it was considered the proposal would be overbearing and cause some significant harm to existing residential amenities. The wording of the reason for refusal was left with officers to agree in consultation with the chair and vice chair. Before the wording could be agreed and the decision issued, the government published the NPPF on the 12th of December last year, the contents of which for decision-making purposes came into effect immediately. So it's extremely important to ensure that any decision issued by the council is legally sound. And if the decision based on the committee's resolution of the 5th of December had been issued after the 12th of December, after the publication of the UNPF, then the decision would not have been sound based upon the relevant policies at the time the decision is issued. And therefore, it could have been challenged in the courts or via appeal, which would have put the council in an extremely difficult position. I would make clear that the resolution made by the committee on the 5th of December last year, based upon the relevant policies applicable at that time on the 5th of December, was sound. It's just the publication of the new NPPF significantly and materially moved the goalposts for us, both as members and officers, and none of us had control over that. It's fully appreciated that the consideration of this application today is a similarly difficult position for everybody involved, but it is a necessary process that has to be undertaken to ensure the final decision on this application issued by the council is lawfully sound. So, as a consequence of the new NPPF, the council is now not able to demonstrate a 5-year supply of deliverable housing sites. And this has a significant impact on the way that decisions on schemes involving housing need to be made. In these circumstances, paragraph 11D of the NPPF provides for a presumption in favour of sustainable development, which means that planning permission should be granted unless any adverse effects of doing so would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits when assessed against the policies in the framework as a whole, having particular regards to key policies for directing development to sustainable locations, making effective use of land, securing well-designed places, and providing affordable homes, individually or in combination. Furthermore, paragraph 125 states in part at criteria C that planning decisions should give substantial weight to the value of using suitable brownfield land within settlements for homes and other identified needs, proposals for which should be approved unless substantial harm would be caused. It's within the above context that this application now needs to be considered and determined. Notwithstanding the full debate of the item that took place at the December committee, members today need to consider all the relevant issues afresh. In light of this, you have a full report before you setting out the issues and an assessment of them by officers, and I'll just now go through the presentation that was given to you in December to refresh everybody of what we're here to look at. So the application site is obviously outlined in red here. The application site is the far northern part of the Hayward Heath College site, which is on Harlands Road. The site measures just over 0.5 of a hectare and is currently fenced off from the rest of the college land, given its current the fact that it's currently unused. The site occupies a sustainable location with a defined built-up area. So, although the college land is located to the south, there are a number of residential properties that border the site. So, those adjoining properties are located in Pendham Road to the west, located here, Pendham Close to the north, and then you've got Turner's Mill Close to the northeast and Turner's Mill Road to the southeast. One of the characteristics of the site, as will be shown on the site sections in a moment, is that the application site is generally on higher ground than the surrounding properties. So this image shows the extent of the previous college development, which occupied the site before demolition took place about 7 years ago. Also shown here is the existing vehicular access, which currently serves a village the college car park and leads directly onto Turner's Mill Road. As members will see in the photo shortly, the site is currently largely grassed, although some concrete base remains from the previous development on the site. Given the historic use and built form here, the site is considerably previously developed land, and this is one of the factors that, as per the NPPF, should be given substantial weight in favour of supporting the scheme in principle. The principle of the proposal is discussed in detail in the report from paras 12.2 to 12.25. In respect to the loss of education / community use of the land subject to the application, this is referred to in paragraphs 12.16 onwards. Offers accept that the application site has no longer viable for continued educational use, and is accepted that there is an adequate provision in the immediate locality to mitigate the impact of the loss of part of this land, of this college land. As such, officers consider that two of the exceptions criteria from policy DP25, which is set out in your report, are met, and to be policy compliant, only one of those exceptions is required to be met. Therefore, overall, the principle of the proposal of development of this site is acceptable. In terms of the proposal itself, the proposal is for the construction of 16 residential properties. In terms of the dwelling mix, there are 4 affordable units, which are 1 and 2 bed units, and the remaining 12 units are all market units and will be 3 and 4 bed properties. The layout shows that most of the dwellings are situated to the north of the access road in a broadly curved shape fronting cul-de-sac, as you can see here. To the south of the access, the remaining dwellings occupy a small terrace of 2 houses and 2 maisonettes are proposed here. 30 parking spaces are proposed for the 16 units, which meets the West Sussex parking standards and is acceptable to officers in this sustainable location. The existing access point onto the college site off Turners Mill Road will utilise and create permanent access to the site. This will be for pedestrians as well as the sole vehicular access, and a condition will secure the delivery of acceptable access arrangements. West Sussex Highways have raised no objections to the proposal, and further conditions are set out in Appendix A, securing construction management plan, car and cycle parking, and a travel plan statement. In terms of drainage, the applicant's strategy shows a proposal that will capture rain landing on the hard surfaces of the development, so the roofs, driveways, etc., and store it in large underground tanks before slowly releasing this water into the public sewer system. This will ensure that any existing drainage runoff from the lower into the lower surrounding gardens would not be made any worse as a result of the development, as much of the rain that does fall on the application site will now be captured and directed away from the neighbouring gardens. Turning to the previously referenced sections, the next, so this slide gives you an idea of the relationships between the proposal and some of the surrounding properties. So this top image shows a broadly north-south section with Pendon Close and Turners Mill Close properties being on the lower ground to the north. So you can see here's the application site here and property in Pendon Close here. And then moving down into the middle image is a broadly west-east section with the houses on Pendon Road to the west and those houses to the east on Turners Mill Road being at a lower level than the application site. So here, this number 36 Pendon Road. So you can see the change in levels there. And this is 53 Turners Mill Road. You can see the change in levels. And this bottom one here is, I think this is plot 10. And this is number 7 Pendon Close. So again, you can see that change in levels there. So in terms of the designs, in terms of this is units 1, 2, 3 and 4. The dwellings are 2.5 stories in height, with pitched roofs and a material palette including brick facing, hanging clay tiles and roof tiles, all of which the details will be secured through a condition. Members will have noted in the report that the urban designer is supportive of the scheme. Some detailed design issues are also reserved by condition, but the overall development is considered to comply with the design policies of the development plan and also the council's design guide. In terms of units 5, 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, you can see their positioning. These are the ones that are generally in the northeast corner of the site. Oh, sorry, northwest part of the site here. The impact on residential amenities is one of the key issues to assess with this application, and a detailed analysis of this is set out in paragraphs 12.52 to 12.73 of your report. In particular, in terms of these particular properties in this location are set out in paragraph 12.64 of the report. Plots 6 and 7 are shown to be slightly less than the minimum 21 metres distance that is often applied as a suitable separation between properties in respect of privacy. This is in regard to 36 Pendon Road. In this case, there is a degree of obliqueness to the angle of the relationship, and together with the fact that the shortfall is only marginal, and that some degree of overlooking is not uncommon within a built-up area, officers do not consider the proposed relationship here would constitute substantial harm. Turning to units 10, 11, 12 and 13, as well as 14 and 15. Units 10 to 13, which are shown in the top image here, are located along the northern boundary of the site. Here, the relationship between the units and the neighbouring houses to the north on both Pendon Close and Turner's Mill Close is down to approximately 15 metres in places. To address this, the applicant has designed plots 10 to 16 in a way that only first floor north-facing windows are bathroom windows. So this elevation here and this elevation here are the ones that face towards the properties to the north. So the only first floor window in those elevations is a bathroom window. These bathroom windows can be conditioned to be fitted with obscure glazing and to be top vent opening only. This way ensuring that overlooking cannot occur from the first floor of these units. With such a condition in place, coupled with a further condition removing permitted development rights, officers are satisfied that substantial harm to residential amenity, which is quite a high threshold, has not been demonstrated. In terms of landscaping, members will have noted from the report that in terms of tree loss, the proposal includes the removal of one Category B tree and 4 individual trees and one group falling within Category C. The applicant's submissions are shown by the planting strategy shown on this slide here, that there will be 71 new trees planted in total, details of which will be reserved by condition. Part of the new planting includes a new community orchard and growing area which will be subject to a management condition. Although biodiversity net gain is not mandatory for this development, a number of ecological enhancements are being secured as set out in paragraph 12.80 of the report, which includes native and wildlife friendly planting, various bird boxes and bat boxes. In terms of sustainability, the applicant will need to adhere to their submitted energy statement, which includes the provision of air source heat pumps for each of the new units. Turning quickly to some photos. So this first image is a view looking east within the site to the rear of the Turner's Mill Close properties. This image is from the same spot but looking in the opposite direction to the west and helps give an appreciation in a change of the levels. This photo is looking west too, but showing the rest of the site and the location of the college there on the left-hand side of the photo. This is an image towards the western end of the site, looking west. This is a view along the northern boundary, looking towards the back of Pendon Close properties. It's another view along the northern boundary, but this time towards the rear of the Pendon Close properties. And this is the final one along the northern boundary with the Pendon Close properties roofs visible here. The photo of looking south towards the site from the back of 8 Pendon Close. So this is looking back towards the site from one of those neighbouring properties to the north. And this is a similar photo looking south towards the site, this time from the rear of 7 Pendon Close. So in conclusion, for members, the key issues are outlined in the report and as highlighted in this presentation. The proposal is deemed acceptable in principle, is considered well designed and will not cause substantial harm to neighbouring amenity, provides an adequate drainage scheme, secures ecological enhancement and sustainability measures, and has not resulted in any objections from the Local Highways Authority. As set out in the report, paragraph 11D of the NPPF is engaged, which requires a tilted balance in favour of development being undertaken. The proposal was considered to comply with the development plan, and the provision of 16 new dwellings should attract moderate weight and support of the development. The provision of additional housing provision and other economic developments derived from the scheme are also matters that weigh in favour of the proposal. While some harm to residential amenities has been identified, officers do not consider this to be significant, i.e. as officers, we consider that harm to be policy compliant. Overall, it's not considered that the adverse impacts of the development significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits when assessed against the policies of the framework as a whole, having regard to the key policies for directing development to sustainable locations, making effective use of land, securing well-designed places and providing affordable homes. The application, Chairman, is therefore recommended for approval subject to the conditions and the completion of a legal agreement.
Thank you, Steve. We do have a few speakers. I'd like to call Elaine Robertson. If you'd like to come to next to my colleague over there and press the right-hand button. And as soon as you start to speak, a clock will appear and you have 2 minutes. Okay. Hello again.
As per my previous objections, members may recall that I took issue with the fact that 21 metres is the widely accepted minimum separation distance in a back-to-back distance between properties to ensure unacceptable harm through overlooking does not occur. Whilst the planning officers may not consider that the new substantial threshold has been breached, this is a subjective opinion not legally defined, and I would suggest that the term unacceptable harm equates with the concept of substantial harm. The introduction of the updated NPPF has not changed this 21-metre distance guidance, and the fact that the developers, presumably deliberately, did not choose number 7 or 8 Penland Close as properties from which to undertake a distance study still remains. These properties are the two most affected by the proposed development and are small, single-storey bungalows below the level of the land. The proposed distance the developers wish to build the houses is still at only 15 metres, more than 25% below the recommended minimum, not slightly as suggested or only marginal. The minimum distance would not have been concluded upon if there had not been significant evidence to prove that anything below this was detrimental. I'm not going to repeat all of the concerns which have already been put forward by my neighbours, the committee and also the Town Council in their objections, but one standout point for me brings me to reiterate their views that the land is in an unusual position of being set above the majority of the surrounding residential area. Any journey through Mid-Sussex at the moment highlights that the numerous ongoing housing developments currently underway appear to be at the same level as surrounding existing residential developments.
30 seconds.
I agree with the Town Council that the flooding risk report is unconvincing. I would say the same about the Great Store being placed into a rain garden. Rainwater already runs down onto surrounding properties, causing flooding issues to nearby properties. It can only be assumed, therefore, to be logical that the development of the site will worsen the effect on these properties. The updating of the NPPF has not moved the position of the land, and the Council still has a duty not to exacerbate existing problems. All of the members' reasons for rejecting the application previously would appear to be strong, as required by the new NPPF, not just clear. I would conclude that the adverse impact of overruling the original members' rejection of the development and now approving it would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefit of legitimately upholding the original refusal of the development.
Thank you. I'd like to call Robert White, who's speaking against this as well. Again, once you start speaking, the 2-minute clock will appear up on the screen, and after 90 seconds, I'll give you 30 seconds. The right-hand button you've got to press. Yes.
Please bear in mind some of the occupants in the surrounding bungalows are elderly or vulnerable and were not able to raise their concerns. Additionally, communication on this matter has been sporadic. Not everyone got the letter about today. We have yet to receive a letter through the post. As such, there are those who weren't able to speak today or did not know that they could. We object to the proposed development of the land next to Haywards Heath College. The proposed properties are large but crammed in, 2-storey semi-detached houses that will tower over the little bungalows at 7 and 8 Penland Close. The proposed houses are not just wider and taller, but on a hill, so will overlook us in a very imposing way, limiting our light and privacy. Even the photo of number 8 Penland Close in the developer's initial planning document shows the site overlooking the surrounding properties from a very high vantage. When we raised this issue, an overlooking and distance study was conducted, but this was done using number 9 Penland Close. Number 9 would be much less affected by this proposal to the extent that the occupant at 9 does not understand why the study was done against his bungalow. This study is a misrepresentation of the proposed developments and their impact on the surrounding bungalows. In fact, there are more than 2 properties which fall within the recommended 21-metre distance. Guidelines like these exist for a reason. We are not against all development,
30 seconds.
but it would make much more sense to redesign the proposed properties at the rear of 7 and 8 Penland Close to be further away and single-storey. The area needs more bungalows, not squashed together semis with minute gardens. In summary, we therefore object to this aggressive and overbearing plan, which will impose massively on the smaller surrounded bungalows and will not provide adequate, decent or pleasant accommodation to potential future residents.
Thank you. Well timed. I'd like to call Rob Morgan, the planning agent who's speaking in support of this application. Your 2 minutes will start. Press the right-hand button, please.
Good afternoon, councillors. I'm Rob Morgan, the planning agent for Turners Mill Developments Limited. Since members resolved to refuse planning permission in December, we've been preparing an appeal as we awaited receipt of the decision notice. We thank you for reconsidering our proposals, which we trust you will find acceptable in light of the material change in planning policy following the publication of the NPPF and as per your officer's recommendation to approve planning permission. We recognise the challenges you face to approve new developments in built-up areas which is visible to residents. However, the government has set a clear objective to deliver 1.5 million new homes over this Parliament, and the NPPF seeks to make as much use as possible of brownfield land, such as the application site. Since the December committee, paragraph 125 of the NPPF is a new entry into the framework. It is detailed in full at paragraph 2.9 of your officer's report, and Mr Ashdown has covered it in summary. It provides that for this application to fail, members must determine that substantial harm would occur. This is a higher threshold than the significant harm test considered in December. We highlight that your officers do not consider that even the lower significant harm threshold is reached and are wholly supportive of the scheme. Local housing need has risen by 317 homes per year, and the council is no longer able to demonstrate the required 5-year supply of deliverable housing. We understand the supply to be between 2.4 and 3.3 years, which represents a significant shortfall. The tilted balance in favour of sustainable development now applies, and your officers confirm that the proposals accord with the requirements of NPPF paragraph 11, meaning that planning permission should therefore be granted without delay. To recap, the benefits of this proposal include revitalising a vacant brownfield site within an existing urban area and sustainable location, delivering 16 new homes, including policy-compliant affordable housing, for which substantial weight should be given in the planning balance, creating new green space with community grow beds, financial benefits to the local economy, including jobs, local spending and Section 106 contributions of around £290,000, and the promotion of sustainable travel modes and enhancing biodiversity. We hope that you support the application and allow these benefits to be realised. And I'd also add that the study undertaken was in discussion with officers and the properties chosen by officers themselves as well.
Okay, thank you.
Chair.
Now, before we enter the debate, one of the speakers mentioned about the loss of light. Can you address that, please, Steve?
Thank you, Chair. There's a couple of things to pick up. I think in terms of, I think it's important to understand in terms of where we're talking about the 21-metre guideline, we're talking about issues of privacy there in terms of overlooking. So where we've got a situation, in terms of to the properties to 7 and 8 Penland Close to the north, which has been identified at around approximately 15 metres. As I showed on the presentation, those 4 properties that face towards those units have been designed so there is no first floor windows looking towards those properties to the north. So they've addressed that issue in terms of the less than 21 metres in terms of privacy by not having any habitable windows on those rear elevations. And in terms of the ground floor elements as set out in the report, with the suitable boundary treatment along the boundary to those properties, we're satisfied that there would be no overlooking in relation from the ground floor to first floor in that situation. So I suppose just wanted to clarify the 21 metres we're talking about privacy, direct window to window, and we're satisfied as the scheme is designed that from a privacy point of view, there is no harm in that respect in terms of particularly there's no significant harm and there's certainly no substantial harm in terms of privacy. In terms of light, then the reference has been made to a study that was undertaken. I can confirm, having spoken to the case officer, in terms of the properties that are included within that study, those are the ones that he requested in the study because they're the ones that he hadn't been able to assess. So in terms of particularly the relationship to the two bungalows directly to the north, then that officer was satisfied in terms of the assessment that he made on those properties, that he could assess that impact without the need of further information. So the properties that are contained within the study were where the officer asked for some additional information in order to help his assessment in those situations. So you know, as I said, we're satisfied that, well, we accept there is an impact in terms of amenities, but clearly, you know, we certainly don't think it's significant, and we certainly, as officers, don't think it's substantial, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Right, members, who wish to go first? Councillor Hitchcock. Oh, I saw your name go forward, hasn't come up on mine yet.
Better?
Councillor Hitchcock.
Can I ask Steve if he can tell us what those plot numbers are for those semi-detached properties behind 7 and 8?
10 and 11.
10 and 11. Okay, thank you. And another question for Steve, which is to do with the previous application. Can you confirm, please, Steve, that if the refusal note had been sent out prior to the MPPF coming in, it would be a sound decision?
Yes, if that notice had been issued prior to the MPPF, then that would have been sound on the basis of the policies at that particular time.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Councillor Kenny. Do you switch yours off, John? John, you switch.
Yeah. Hi, yeah, I note that these terms, substantial and significant, have been used. It's my understanding that the term substantial harm has been, up to now, primarily used in the protection of heritage assets, and that the gradation significant harm has tended to be associated with, harms to residential amenity. That was the only phrase that was used in planning terms. And further, that the potential planning responses to significant effect on residential amenity could range from refusal of the application through to changes to the design of the application, through to other less significant actions. So I'm a little confused that the language has been developed that the MPPF has somehow applied the term substantial harm, which has previously been reserved for protection of heritage assets. In this instance, we seem to be referring to it as the gold standard for assessing how we should react to what is acknowledged to be harms to residential amenity in this application. Could you explain to me what that difference?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah. So in terms of the MPPF, then in previous editions, then the term substantial has been used, substantial harm, less substantial harm, in terms of heritage assets. In terms of where we've been assessing the impact either on residential amenity or just the general impact on the character and appearance of the area, where we've been relying on is the wording within our development plan. Our development plan policy refers to significant harm. Other neighbourhood plans refer to it as unacceptable harm or other variations of wording. Now, in terms of the NPPF, it's quite clear in para 125, which is set out in paragraph 2.9 of your report, paragraph 1.25c. So generally paragraph 125 is dealing with the effective use of land. And that's quite clear and states that planning decisions should give substantial weight to the value of using sustainable brownfield land within settlements for homes and other identified needs. Proposals for which should be approved unless substantial harm would be caused. So substantial harm in this particular situation would essentially apply to all matters, whether you're looking at residential amenity, whether you're looking at design. It's a catch-all, and that's all part of the overall planning, the balancing exercise you need to take under paragraph 11, because paragraph 11 requires you to look at the NPPF as a whole. So you need to look at the whole. 125 is part of the NPPF. It talks about substantial harm on all matters. So it does cover residential amenity. It does cover design, for example, and that is a higher bar than the wording within our development plan at this minute in time. It's subtle, and as planners, we all use language when sort of trying to give a weight to issues, and that range would be from limited, moderate, significant, up to substantial. So that's planning talk in terms of what weight you would give to what particular issue.
Can I
Come back? Yes.
Yeah, thanks very much. So, thanks for that, Steve. So, I guess the question I would have now then is that, given that the term has been applied across both arenas, and assuming that the government doesn't want the NPPF to be a charter for the building of poor quality housing, slums and badly designed places, could you give us some guidance as to what effect on residential amenity would need to be present for this clause to be brought into being, and give us grounds for, in other words, can you scale for us, given that the fact that good design of places is a requirement within the NPS, and I think a reasonable understanding that the government does not want bad environments to be built. Can you give us any indication as to what the officers would consider to be something that significantly affected residential amenity?
Yeah, please.
Well, ultimately, it's for you as the planning committee and the decision maker to take a view in terms of using your judgment, what you consider to be substantial. Obviously, the officers' views are set out in the report, and they are the officers' views. And you are correct in terms of the need for well-designed places, and that doesn't go away. But as the decision makers, it's for you to take a view on what you consider to be substantial.
Finished? Could you switch your mic off, please? Councillor Henwood.
Could we please go back to the diagram showing 7 and 8 Pendlin Close, please, Steve? Not the picture, the actual slope of the land, not the diagram. No, you skipped over it. I want to see the green grass.
Oh, you want a photograph?
Yeah, I want the photograph. I beg your pardon. The photograph above 9 and, okay, so the lady, we heard that the distance between 7 and 8 was 15 meters from the site. What was the distance from the site to number 9 Penland?
I believe that's approximately 20 metres.
To 9, so the direct effect would be to 7 and 8.
That's where the property, the proposed properties are at its close.
Closest, which is
Closest to,
15 meters.
yeah.
Okay, I understand that. And the standard really is 21 meters. So I would suggest that this is the elevation, so not so much the privacy they get around by obscuring bathroom windows. What about an overbearing aspect if you are a bungalow and this is 2.5-story high? The overbearing aspect of those sites onto the bungalows. That was, I'm suggesting, can we look at that?
So this bottom slide here, this is number 7,
Okay,
and this is plot 10. So that's the relationship.
excuse me, is plot 10 2.5 stories high?
Plot 10 is 2 stories high. So in terms of plot 10, this is plot 10.
Okay,
So that's what's facing the number 7.
number 7, okay, if we go back to number 7.
So there.
Okay. That's 7,
So
okay,
I think what's important to note, the issue of 21 metres, where we're talking about whether something is overbearing, is not relevant. The 21 distance is relevant in terms of privacy. There is no guideline in terms of at what distance something is overbearing.
Overbearing.
That is, again, that is a planning judgment.
our judgment, that's up to us, our judgment. Okay, that's all for now.
Have you got any more questions to ask?
They might come in a minute, I'm going to listen to Councillor de Bell.
Okay, could you switch off your mic, please?
I said,
Thank you. Councillor de Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Steve. I think what we're faced here with is that the ball game's changed, basically. And a lot of ball games have changed in our nation over the last few months, haven't they? People that used to say that they were basically against all sorts of different developments, all of a sudden are very pro them and pushing for them to happen. However, we are in a situation here, obviously, where we have a development which we didn't particularly concur with. However, if we don't follow the advice of our officers, who work very, very hard to deliver the information, two things can happen. First of all, we can turn something down, which will go to appeal, and it'll get through anyway, and it will cost our council a lot of money. Or the other thing is, if we continually don't follow advice and don't look carefully, as all the members are doing obviously today, then we will become an irrelevance as a planning committee. And I think that both of those things we have to think very carefully about when we look at the facts that thankfully our officers have brought to our attention today regarding this change in the ball game. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor de Bell. Councillor Brown.
Thank you very much. Well, I spent some time on Tuesday going up and looking around the site as much as I could because it's surrounded by 2.5 metre solid fencing, so you can't get onto the site. But I walked round Penland Road and Penland Close and Turner's Mill Close, and also the grounds of the college. So I got an idea. And as you probably remember, Monday and Tuesday we've had some sunshine, the first for ages, and the sun, the angle of the sun is obviously very low, and of course when you look at it from the point of view of these houses to the north, there's going to be some shading, and how much shading I don't know. There certainly would be, in my estimation,
there will certainly be the effect in the spring, making their gardens and reducing their light substantially, making their gardens darker and more. It's a bit unusual, really, south-facing gardens going up. So my first point is really, since the council have had this in front of them, one of the things they could easily have done to put everybody in the right position on this is to invite us to have a look at the site. And if I feel that my looking round was a little bit partial, but it was good enough. But if you haven't looked at all, you haven't really got a really good idea, because any amount of looking at these sections, you know, doesn't really tell you the story about, because they're all different. The other thing that I would suggest that could have been done, well, I'll ask if why it wasn't done as well, and that is, why didn't we take this to the other planning committee? Because it puts us in a difficult position, really, because on one hand we have to say we're not predetermined, depending on how we voted last time, and I've spent a lot of time looking at this, believe you me, over last weekend and this week as well, and I've been poring over it, and I feel it's put myself and the committee in an unfortunate situation. And at the end of the day, you know, as the planner, Mr. Morgan, said, you know, they're just holding back from making an appeal, and we've already had one appeal, which is in my ward that I had to attend to and speak at, as a result of the reduction in the housing numbers, which is probably the key issue. So I've got some more detailed things which I might come back on if I'm allowed to, but I'd like to put those points to you. Thank you.
Traditionally, in all the years I've been on planning, it's only the district planning committee goes out on block. I'm looking at the vice chairman and my vice chairman as well. They go on block. It's down to us individually to go down and assess it. So you'd look at it individually with fresh eyes, as opposed to a collective look. And when you're looking at something which has got 3, 4, 5, 6,000 houses or whatever, you do need the expertise of the officers to direct them. But we tend not to do them because we do 50 units and less. So that's one of the reasons why. And I would like to think that we're all professional enough in the time we're doing it that we can look at this, armed with the new information that we've got in front of us, and come up with a decision that you can live with. So, you know, we tend not to if we send it to the other committee, because they've just done Imberhorn Farm with nearly 600-700 houses there, 550 houses. That's a lot of houses. Can I just make a quick plea? I'll do in a second, Avina. It's just that you seem to be wanting to listen to what other people are saying. I don't have a problem with you coming in with fresh, but please, if you've got all the points you need to do, say what you've got to do, because I'm only going to allow you to come back once. So we've got to move on to other items on the agenda. So if you've got the things you've got to say, please say it in your first run, and I will let you come back a second time. What I don't want you to do is come back the third, the fourth, the fifth time. Okay? Edwina. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Just to respond to the issue about predetermination, because I think it's quite important that that's set out here. With regard to predetermination, a member would not be predetermined as long as they're open to considering all the facts before them. And the Localism Act says that a member will not be predetermined because they've indicated either way in the past how they would vote. And I do take the point that Councillor Brown's raised, that there was a decision made previously. However, the difference is there is a new MPPF, which then has different considerations for you to look at in this committee. So just to kind of set it out and allay any concerns, as long as members are not closed mind, as long as you haven't determined that, regardless of what's said here today, you've made your mind up about how you're going to vote, then no member's predetermined.
Thank you very much. Sound advice. Councillor Cherry, please.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I just want to throw out a thought here. We've mentioned Chapter 11 of the MPPF deals with making effective use of land. And then it quotes, give substantial weight to the value of using suitable brownfield sites within settlements for homes and other identified needs. Proposals should be approved unless substantial harm will be caused. And at that point, I just want to sort of remind committee that this land is educational land, and the loss of this land, once we've built houses on it, will then not allow for any future development of the sixth form college. And when you consider the amount of population expansion in Haywards Heath, which is going to be happening in the very near future with all the new developments, I think this is an issue that needs to be looked at. And my feeling is that it could cause quite substantial harm. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
I think it does say in the report, this has been deemed surplus to requirements. So they've done an assessment, and it's Chichester University, who run the sixth form college here in Haywards Heath. Because bearing in mind, for a good few years, it closed. And it was only the previous couple of MPs ago who fought like crazy to get it reopened again. So they've spent a lot of money on that site, and they deemed that part of the land is deemed surplus. So the money that they get paid on there could be used to enhance the facilities of what they got, or it could go into the Chichester unit. But it's not really relevant to this application. Yeah, of course you can. Yes.
It's just that, the point I'm making is that we're not looking into the future, the future of Haywards Heath. There's going to be a lot more houses. And then particularly when we're looking at the proposed school at Brookley, which was supposed to have a sixth form college, and I gather isn't going to be having a sixth form college as far as we know at the moment. We're really, we're just reducing the educational opportunities for, future, future young people by the loss of this land. That's just a comment.
It's a valid point, but it's not really into this one, because we do have other sixth form colleges within the locality. So, but it's been, for this report we have in front of us, it's been deemed surplus to requirements. So the experts were the Educational Authority, and they deemed it not necessarily. Thank you. Could you switch off your thank you? Councillor Henwood, your chance to come back and shine.
I just wanted to quote from the new NPPF. It also says we should have particular regard to key policies securing well-designed places. That's additional to everything else that's been quoted. So we should bear that in mind when we're making a decision. Well-designed places. Thank you, Chairman.
I think I nearly called you councillor. Sorry there, Steve, to apologise. I think Steve actually mentioned that. Councillor Casella.
I think Councillor de Burgh was correct. The ball game has changed. I think we went in at half time. When we came back out, they hadn't just moved the goalposts, they'd actually taken one of them away.
Yeah, very true.
So I think we've now got to play with the new reality and accept what it is, and let's go forward, in all honesty.
I think I'm going to have my two pence, if that's okay. I do think very valid comments have been made across from every councillor, but any appeal will be made under, and if you've got the report in front of you, 2.7, 2.8 and 2.9 of this, we can't demonstrate a 5-year land supply. So it's a tilted balance. You've got to think, whether you agree or don't agree to good design, that's down to each individual member of this committee. But you've also, what is you can't disagree with, we do not have a 5-year land supply. We did when we made that decision before, we don't have it now. So you've got to tilt this balance up. And it's a situation which is not good. Councillor Hitchcock.
Thank you, Chair. We've heard a lot of comments tonight. I think Graham's comment is the key comment.
Yeah.
I think from my own personal view, I need to support this now. But if we can do it in any form whatsoever, can we remove the permitted development rights from plots 10 and 11 to give future protection to 7 and 8?
That's a very good question. I'm sure Mr. Ashdown will give you a good answer to that one. But just those two particular plots.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I'll refer you to condition 32 on page 53, which removes permitted development rights from all properties.
All properties?
All properties.
Oh, right.
So we've taken that a step further for you
Okay,
already.
thank you. I hadn't read that.
Thank you. Can you switch off your,
Yeah.
the last word, unless anybody else who hasn't spoken? Oh, no, I'm going to have to allow the people who haven't spoken beforehand. Councillor Kennedy. I thought you said you wanted to put your hand
I did, yes.
Okay. We did.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is really difficult because we have discussed this once before. We've discussed it again. I mean, from my perspective, this is a brownfield site, and I think to a large extent the proposal is one that I support. But as has been mentioned, I've got concerns particularly about the plots that have been mentioned and about the two properties that are clearly at quite a higher level. I'd like to ask, before I go any further, what is the height difference? We can see there is a height difference between, for example, 7 Penland Close and the proposal at plot 10. Do we know the height difference there? Because 7 is a bungalow, as I understand it. Driving around that road, or that close, it looks like very low property, whereas we've got on a higher level, maybe 10 feet higher, I don't know, a double 2-storey building with a roof.
It's going to look...
Can we...
I'm talking.
Yeah. Well, it's just a question. I mean,
anything else?
That is that is from my perspective, that is it's not overlooking because there's a bathroom with an obscure glass window, so that's taken care of. But certainly there would appear to be quite on the southern boundary, as it were, something that is going to block an awful lot of light, particularly at this time of year, onto those properties. So does that amount to substantial harm? I think that's the question we've got to ask ourselves. I don't know. I mean, how do we deal with it? I'm certainly in favour of the development of this site, which I think is effectively derelict land, since the sixth form college don't want it, despite the fact that we may need it in the future. That's got to be their decision, I think.
It does look like on the plan that the top of the roof of 7 is the start of the eaves, is that? Just below the eaves of the roof part, and so that's be where the window would be. So actually the window, it's not a 30-degree rule, so the lighting isn't really an issue. Do you want to have a look?
We can't project that on there, no.
I can't, in terms of, I haven't got the exact levels. I've only got a level for here, but I haven't got a level for the property adjacent. But that, you know, that comes at that's at point 62. So that between this point here and this point here is get my maths right, 8.8 metres from ground level within the site to ridge line of the proposed unit is just over 8 metres.
So that's around about 27, 28 feet.
And then obviously this, again, so that, you know, that gives you an idea of if that's 8 metres, this is then dropped down, okay, approximately, probably about 2 metres, you know, approximately.
Yeah, so we're talking over 30 feet. I mean, forgive me for using the word, but it looks like quite a substantial building compared to the bungalow.
But, you know, again, the only thing I would sort of mention as well, that in terms of obviously the change in levels, if we look at the, we've got some photos from the rear gardens. So, oh, I've gone too far. I've gone far too far. So that's I think this is number 8, I think, yeah. So while obviously the dwelling is at a higher level, it is set in from the boundary. So, you know, where you are looking...
It's not on the boundary accent.
Yeah, so when you are looking within this property, it's the top part of the building that you will see. So it's not the full face of the building you're going to see. You'll get a perception of something beyond on the horizon rather than full frontal. You won't get the full 2-storey.
Well, that's the thing that concerns me on this particular application.
Is that,
otherwise,
that picture there, Steve, is that the fence of, it looks like the top part of the fence?
It is.
Yeah. It is?
Yeah.
It's got to be on it.
It has got to be.
I think you can see.
Yeah.
that's looking back down.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Kenny, I'll allow you, and then I'll allow Councillor Henwood, but Councillor Kenny beat you to it.
Yeah, I'll be brief. First thing, just like an observation. As always, it's extremely frustrating when the only option is refusal. Just want to say for the record, I am in favour of housing. I'm in favour of building on brownfield sites. I want to see housing. I want to see the right housing. So I really just want to say that. Secondly, I just want to note, and Steve, just correct me, only if you need to, what I've heard today is that whether or not something is overbearing or whether or not the harm is substantial are both matters of planning judgment, legitimate planning judgment. Okay, and then, yeah, beyond that, I would echo Councillor de Belle's observation that there's 2 routes here. One looks expensive and the other is the road to irrelevance.
Okay. And to wrap it up, Councillor Henwood.
Well, as the developer is here, I would make a plea that because these are elevated accommodation, that there might be some photovoltaics installed on the roof for energy, renewable energy. Thank you, Chairman.
I would like to think every development now has this. You would like to think that every development now has it. Right, I think we've had a really good debate on this one. Whether we like it or not, we've had a good debate, and it now comes down to the crunch time, the numbers. So can I have a proposer that this, Councillor Hitchcock, a seconder? Councillor Sweatman. Those in favour of the application, when we get it on our little pads here, green if you support it, red if you don't support it, and yellow if you abstain. Okay. 8 in favour, 2 against, and 1 has abstained, so that has been passed. The developer has heard everything we've said, so I'm sure photovoltaic tiles will be included. Thank you very much.
Could you clear the...
I'll allow you two to leave before we go to the... All right. Item 7 is DM 242861, KFC 27 to 28 Marketplace in Burgess Hill. Again, can I remind members, the only reason it's here is that we actually own the land it sits on. Steve?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, relatively straightforward. We all know where KFC is in the Martlets. Essentially, what they're looking to do is update their signage. So this is the existing signage, and spot the different colour. Yeah, this is the new signage. That is literally the extent of what they're asking for. And as Chairman said, it's only here because of the council's interest in the land.
And it would have been a delegated.
It would have been delegated,
So,
yes.
I would like to ask for a proposal from Burgess Hill and a seconder from Burgess Hill, if they're happy. You're proposing it? And a seconder? Oh, that's all right. I haven't got eyes on the back of my head. Sorry, you were right. You were proposing it, Nick. So Councillor Hussain and Councillor Kennedy. Can we take a vote, please? Could you get the... Thank you. Green for approval, red if you don't like it. If you've got an adverse, you can vote on this one. All right, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. If you clear that screen, we'll now go to item 8. DM 242885, Playground Hollands Way, East Grinstead, West Sussex. The only reason it's here is we actually own the playground. and it would have been a delegated decision. Steve, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Essentially consists of 3 items, 3 elements. The first is a new pathway, which you can see here. Second one is some additional drop curbs to Hollands Way to allow better accessibility. And the third is a replacement ramp. There's already a ramp there. So just a couple of photos to show this. That's the existing ramp. All these changes are being pursued in order to increase accessibility to the play area.
Thank you. Councillor Henwood.
I see the applicant is Clarion Housing. Are they actually going to pay for this?
No.
Just curious.
They may own the cafe, but that, I can tell you, that's our playground. So they've done obviously a joint with us to get it all in one go. But love to think they would pay for it, but I'm now looking for 2 people from East Grinstead to propose and second it.
I propose, boss.
Thank you. And
I've got a question.
oh God, sorry, Paul, I didn't see your it come up.
It was very late. Thank you very much. I just wanted to, I wonder if you could just run through the 3 aspects, exactly where they are. I'm very familiar with this playground in Holland Way. Thanks.
So
Yeah, I couldn't tell really.
So the first one here, this is Spring Way.
Yeah.
So this is where the first element is, in terms of the proposed ramp. So there's some existing steps, and obviously this allows better accessibility. Second element is in this location here. So this is the drop curb. So where they're proposing the drop curbs either side of Hollands Way in that location. And then the third one is the building over here in this corner where the existing ramp is, where they're looking to put the new ramp.
Round the...
Round the side of the building. Yeah, so there's an existing ramp there. So it's, no,
that's what's
there at this minute in time. So that what we're looking at is some improvements.
So Councillor de Bell, you're going to propose this? And Councillor Sweatman, you're going to second it?
Yes, Chairman, much needed improvement. I was up there recently before that hut changed over, and it needed much improvement, so I'm very happy this is going ahead.
Yes. Can I have the, we've got a proposer and a seconder. Can I have, thank you. Green, if you agree. Oh, hang on a second, it's frozen. Need to reconfigure. I think in terms of expediency, we would dispense with, oh yeah, we're back. Oh, it's back, it's formatted. You've got the magic touch. I've got 3 people, 2 to go. Please tell me it's not me. That's it. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. The next one is reasons for refusal. We haven't got any. Other matters, item 8, questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2, due notice of which has been given. I have none. And can you just remain seated until such time as we get the cameras switched off? Yeah. When I close the meeting at 5:11.